And thanks much for tuning into the Daily Dose for Spiritual Growth. We are continuing on this whole idea of praying and fasting and planning and preparation for the 21 days of praying and fasting that starts this Sunday. Now, yesterday we talked about our motive, our heart, why we do what we do. And it's important to recognize that fasting is not about us. Fasting is not to glorify us, or fasting is not even for our own physical benefits, even though it's going to benefit us physically. That is not the why we do what we do, right? Fasting is a spiritual discipline for spiritual growth and to tune out the distractions of this world and to tune in to God the Father. And so hopefully you were challenged, encouraged yesterday. Well, I want to talk about the Daniel fast today because maybe you're familiar with it. But maybe you don't know where it's from. Well, it's from Daniel chapter 1. Daniel chapter 1. And to give you some context here, Daniel and some of these other young men, they were from Judah, and because of the disobedience of the Israelites and things like that, God allowed the enemies to come and take the Israelites captive. And that's where the context is. This is the Babylonian captivity. And so they were held captive. They were actually, kidnapped basically, and then brought in, and they were forced to learn the Babylonian way, which was completely against the Israelite way, God the Father's way of, God, I'm going to serve you as serve you only. The Babylonian way is, hey, I've got multiple gods here, and it's, I'm going to serve myself here. It's all about me, and I'm just going to, worship all these other things. And that was not obviously the way of Daniel here. And Daniel here writes about this. And so that gives us the context a little bit here. In the very beginning here, they thought, hey, these young men, they were handsome, they were wise, and they're like, we will offer these young men the royal food, the meats, the wine, all those things like that. But Daniel knew that this food would have been offered to idols. This food would have been offered to multiple gods. And he was like, I'm going to choose not to do that. In verse 8 of Daniel chapter 1, he says this: "But Daniel resolved not to defile himself with the royal food and wine. And he asked the chief official for permission not to defile himself this way. Now, God had caused the official to show favor and compassion to Daniel. But the official told Daniel, I'm afraid that the Lord, the king, who has assigned your food and drink, why should he see you looking worse than the other young men of your age? The king would have my head because of you." And so obviously the official was, thinking practically and thinking selfishly and thinking like, hey, hey, it's my head out here on the chopping block here. Why would I allow that to happen? And here's the context here. I mean, for Daniel to do something like that, I mean, he's a slave. That was a huge, bold thing for Daniel to do. But do you see there, God showed favor and compassion to Daniel and to the official to make sure that the officials showed compassion to Daniel. But obviously the official wasn't dumb and was like, hey, why would I do this? Because if you are starting to, get worse than all the other men, then it's going to be on me. But this is where the Daniel fast comes in. This is what Daniel explains in verse 12. It says, "Please test your servants for 10 days. Give us nothing but vegetables to eat and water to drink. Then compare our appearance with that of the young men who eat the royal food, and treat your servants in accordance with what you see." So he agreed to this and tested them for 10 days. At the end of the 10 days, they looked healthier and better nourished than any of the young men who ate the royal food. So the guard took away their choice food and the wine they were to drink and gave them vegetables instead. And so that's where you see and hear about the Daniel fast. And maybe you've done the Daniel fast before. Maybe you know of somebody who's done the Daniel fast, and that's where you drink only water. You don't drink obviously any wine, any alcohol. You don't have any meat. You don't have any processed sugar or bread or anything like that. And so that's where you get the Daniel fast. Now, let's talk about here the why here. What Daniel do, and this is where it comes in the context of yesterday as well with Zechariah. You see, a lot of times people are like, I'll do the Daniel fast. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to be healthier because of that. And yes, you more likely you can, and maybe you will. But again, it's about the why. You see, with Daniel here, it was, I'm not going to defile myself by drinking the alcohol and by eating the meat that was offered to the idols and to the other gods. And so he was like, I'm not going to do that. I want to honor the Lord and I want to just eat these things. And God honored him for that because he knew the reason why Daniel did it. And again, that's why it goes back to the why. And so it's not just what we're fasting, why we're fasting, and what are we fasting for. And we'll get to that later on this week when we're talking more about praying and fasting. And so it's crucial to understand, what are we praying for? What breakthroughs? What in your life needs to be restored? I talked a little bit about that this past Sunday. You know, is there finances, or is there a relationship that you desire for it to be restored? Is it for your personal relationship with God the Father, that you know that you've been kind of lackadaisical, that you've been kind of apathetic with your relationship with God? It's like, you know what? I need a jump start here. I need to dive into the deep end here. I need to be like, you know, I can't just be playing in the kiddie pool here. I'm not a kid anymore here. I need to be serious in my relationship with God. You know, praying and fasting is a wonderful way to go to the Lord and say, you know, I'm going to tune out the distractions. God, I'm only going to tune in to you. So I don't know what you are, why you are fasting, and what you're fasting for. But see, the most important thing is that you go to the Lord, and you first and foremost, you're doing it for God, not doing it for, you know, the applause of other people, but you have the right motive, the right heart. You know what you're fasting because you know what's a distraction. You know what is keeping you from a deeper relationship with God. And so whatever the Holy Spirit revealed to you, and then obviously a big thing that you can plan and prepare for this week is to set yourself up for success. Yeah, if you're going to be fasting, you know, certain things, I wouldn't suggest you like binge those things right now. I wouldn't do that. I would like slowly start eliminating those things, so that way you could set yourself up for success when the official start fast on Sunday. So those are just some tips that you can apply to your life here this week. So again, thank you so much for tuning in. That gives us some context to the Daniel fast. Make sure you tune in tomorrow for the Daily Dose for Spiritual Growth.